we will call the meeting to order at 6 p.m. All board members are present. First up is review and approval of the March 26th public meeting minutes.
Make a motion to approve the March 26th public meeting minutes.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion as presented, do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. The next board meeting will be May 14th at Belmont Elementary School. All right, next up is public communication and correspondence. I know people are here, doesn't mean they want to speak, but in case they do want to speak, we ask that you say your name and spell your name and what town you're from. And just to be aware, when you're giving public comment, the board isn't going to respond. We'll take all the information in, but it's a time for you to talk to the board, but we won't be engaging in back and forth discussion. So, anyone would like to speak?
Hi, Lisa Ober, O-B-E-R-L-I-S-A, just in case you don't get. I'm here to speak again about the grading system, but first I wanted to do something that I just got last night from Mr. Finch about the naturalization examination of 2020. It was developed for our United States citizens to pass a 70% or better. So right there, 70%. It's not based on our proficiencies, I mean, our 1 through 4. But today my senior had to pass it. Basically, the high school is going to make sure they pass it so they graduate, but it's just a lot of pressure, but it's 70%. So it's something the kids haven't seen. So I just wanted to point that out, that the state is telling 70%, but we're going to 1 to 4. So I know you're not going to comment, but I wanted to comment on that. That was interesting. Also, as an elementary school teacher in another district, I fully support a 3-point grading scale for elementary. When my own son was in school at BES, there was a 3-point scale at the time and it worked very well. C for commendable, A adequate, and not meeting expectations. There's no reason to change that system. When students get to middle school, however, the grading system should change to prepare them for high school and beyond, the naturalizations test. 5th grade is a perfect time to have this transition as its stakes are low compared to the transition to high school to college. For middle and high school, I would like to advocate for a return to traditional grading practices that are more clear to kids, parents, and even most teachers. As teachers, we are developing humans, not just learning machines that are checking off the standards. Homework matters, participation matters, and collaboration matters. Timeliness matters. Assessments matter. By giving traditional grades, parents and students are able to see the big picture about how their child is succeeding in school in all areas, not just the standards. And I did send to Mr. Tercey and 2 other board members what Sanborn Regional has decided to. They were on the 1 through 4. They're the first ones that were like, go, 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 competency based, 1 to 4. Now they're back to the 100-point scale. So I gave him and 2 other board members, Michelle and Alice, I think, just that information. So you had it. So thank you. I just want to see my.
Thank you.
Come on.
Anyone else?
I'm Jessica McSheffrey, Jessica McSheffrey, MCSHEFFREY. I'm a resident of Belmont. I currently have a student at the high school and also a student in the middle school. I really just wanted to take this time to express my concerns about the subjectiveness of the current grading system. As it was stated at the last board meeting by Mr. Tercey, we're asking teachers to look at a body of evidence and make a claim, choosing on a very limited scale. Teachers are not typically trained to do this, and even with training, choosing or making a claim for a grade is too subjective. We should not be asking teachers to do this in middle school or high school when there's many other variables playing into their academic performance. We were told that this grading system would make it clear what our students know and what they're able to do, and then also what they need to work on. Unfortunately, I have found the opposite to be true. As a parent, I feel less informed than ever about how my students are doing in school. Some of us are attempting to keep up with our kids' grades by checking Empower. For many parents, reading Empower or trying to understand it is very difficult, and just too much information that really isn't helping us better understand where our students are. It may be useful for teachers to know the standards, but as parents, we want to see their regular grades, quizzes, homework assignments, everything that Lisa mentioned, as a whole coming into play with how our students are doing. Let's see. Most parents tend to only check Empower when grades are coming due. So it's kind of backtrack in terms of how much support teachers might have, because if Empower doesn't tell us what our students are missing or maybe what they need to do to catch up. So we're not able to then support their learning and our teachers in getting them back on track to where they need to be. As a parent, I'm very lost when it comes to deciphering my kids' grades, and I find that my kids are even more so, feeling very frustrated and confused as to understanding where their grades are and what they mean and how they can improve them. Numerous times my own kids have told me about their grades or their peers' grades being completely different on a specific assignment, even if they all have the same answer. Worked differently, but they end up with the same answer, their grades are different. My daughter has tried to talk with other teachers, with guidance counselors, myself, to have a better understanding of where she's at with her grades and how she can improve them, with very limited success. Specifically, she's the one in high school, and she's feeling very frustrated and lost and kind of left behind with where she's at with her grading system. So I'm hoping that we can return to a more objective, clear system that's more translatable not only to our students and parents, but also to colleges and scholarship foundations that are going to be looking at our students' grade point average when they become seniors. So that's why I support returning to the 100-point grade system.
Anyone else? Yep. I don't speak in front of people, so this is very difficult for me. But I know most of you, so it's going to be okay. All right, here we go. Mine is about the grading system also. When I come to these meetings...
Hold on 1 second. Can you...
Oh, sorry, Nicole Sturgeon. I just figured everybody knew who I was.
I don't... Greta, do you know how to spell
Yeah.
that?
Is it N-H-I-C-H-O?
No H.
No, okay, thank you.
Belmont. I just figured.
Yeah, sorry. I just...
No
I know
problem.
Greta, she reminded me to make...
I put in Nikki initially.
It's fine. Nicole's my professional name. All right.
We'll go.
I mostly hear about the students who are in AP honor classes, how successful they are, and how the grading system is working for them. Well, I haven't heard much about the average student or the struggling student and how they are doing. The honor students are stressed because they can't get a 4, while there are a lot of students who are stressed because they can't get a 3 or pass a class. And why do high school students need to be so stressed? Some of these students don't plan on going to college, but that doesn't mean they don't deserve a high school diploma. In traditional grading systems like the ones we all grew up with, our homework quizzes and our class participation counted towards our final passing grade. The current grading system gives a final grade based on the summative assessment. In our current grading system, the only thing that counts is how good you are at taking tests, and this is not fair to all students, and it is not equitable. Many of them are working as hard as they can, but do not have the mental capacity to succeed or rely on a summative test to pass a class. We should value hard work just as much, if not more, than test-taking skills and intelligence. These students may not still get high grades with traditional grading, but they would not be failing as they are in our current system. One more. I would also like to talk about an issue specific to the high school. Students are expected to stay focused on academic work for many hours in a row at VHS. Classes are long and passing time between classes only allows for a quick stop at the bathroom. Kids are sitting in uncomfortable chairs and being asked to work for much more time than adults would do without a break. These are high school students and they need time to socialize with others who may not be in their classes. They need time to walk around and relax. More academic time does not necessarily mean more learning, as the brain and body can only take so much without a break. My son doesn't like school, never has. Never will, it's fine. So when he says things, I kind of brush it off. But my daughter loves school. Well, she did. There's no joy, none. She doesn't like it. And she's in high school, a freshman. So, just wanted to tell you.
Anyone else? You did great. You spoke.
Yay, I did it.
I do. And I actually do speak to hundreds of students in my college classroom, but this is very different for me too, so I'll struggle to get through it as well. I'm Cheryl Durand, CHERYLDURAND, from Canterbury. So I just want to kind of preface my whole thing by saying that, or acknowledging that I was part of the conversation when we started competency-based grading. I sat in this room with those who were involved in the planning process too, to provide feedback and things like that. And it sounded like a wonderful idea. But I think like how I've seen it play out is not as wonderful as I had hoped it would be. I was at the last board meeting, I mentioned that we use competency-based grading in my program. And the more I reflect on it, the more I think it makes much more sense there. So I teach in a pharmacy program, and these people have chosen to become pharmacists, and everyone in this room wants them to be competent at everything, right? But when we're talking about middle school and high school, not every kid is going to be competent at everything we want them to be competent at, and that's okay. If everybody turned out to be a rocket scientist, we would have no healthcare providers to take care of our heart attacks. But if I choose to become a pharmacist, then I damn well better meet certain competencies to be able to perform that. So I'm starting to think that competency-based grading doesn't really belong in high school, just because of that fact that it's like some kids are going to be really good at something and not so great at something else, and that's perfect, actually. And I'll speak about my son, who really tries to get the best grades he can. On a number of occasions, he tries to get 4s, and oftentimes, more so in the beginning, but even still, several years later, he'll say, well, I asked the teacher what I'm supposed to do to get a 4, and they haven't told me yet. And it's like, gets closer and closer to when grades are due, and he's getting stressed out and anxious because he doesn't know if he's going to be able to earn that 4, and he's really trying. So that kind of thing I do think is really unfair to students. And I mentioned too last time that, yeah, you could have student A and student B and they both meet the competency, but they do it so differently. Like one student, you're like, wow, they really know what they're talking about. And student B, you're like, I guess, they did what they were supposed to do, and okay, fine, but very different. And so the fact that students are asked to go above and beyond that to earn a 4, when maybe they really just blew the teacher away just being competent in the way that they were competent versus a 3 over here. So it puts extra stress on the students too when they have to do something extra above and beyond to earn a 4. When again, I think it was mentioned, like, why are they so stressed? I don't remember, and I don't put a lot of pressure on my kid either. I'm just like, do the best you can, and he's stressed and anxious, and it kind of breaks my heart a little bit. And again, that whole GPA thing, the weighting of AP and honors courses. I know that my son has been working with the principal at the high school too to try to get the weighting to be different, and it sounds like it's heading in that direction. So I'm hopeful that that will happen, and for all of the students, it's not just my son, but every student who's trying to do the best that they can to get scholarships. The cost of education is insane. I'm sure you're all aware, but I know there's 3 universities in Boston that tuition just went above $90,000 a year. Like, that's crazy. Can you put that in minutes? That's crazy. I think I might be done. But so I guess in summary and closing, if there was some kind of assessment done that showed that competency-based grading is really doing well for our students, like if the district has an assessment plan that it wasn't necessarily shared with the public, and you're like, yep, no, it really is working fine, great, but I haven't seen that necessarily, and I think a lot of us are here for the same reason, that it's causing more confusion and stress for the kids. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yep, sorry, I didn't see.
That's okay. Andrea, Andrea. Last name is Besegai, Besegai. I live in Belmont. I am not just a parent of 2 high school students, I am also a teacher. I teach in a middle school, but for 20 years prior to teaching in the middle school, I taught in an elementary school where we did competency-based grading. Although I understand why that does make a lot of sense in elementary school, coming from a teacher who had these ridiculously long descriptors for what was a 4, a 3, a 2, a 1, I can tell you every single year it was a hamster wheel. What does that look like? What does that mean? You have so many different verbs in those different descriptors. It is very challenging to say with 100% confidence that this is the appropriate grade. One hesitation for me when I moved up to middle school was that they were no longer using competency-based grading, which I was very comfortable and used to, but still there was always that little moment of, is this truly a 3? Is this going to be a 3 in every single elementary school across the state? We went to the 0 to 100 scale, and that's what my high school uses in the district that I work in. And I can tell you, I never once had an elementary school student ask me to revise a 3.5 anything. Not once. They did not understand, the parents did not understand. They didn't look at the competencies, they just looked at the final grade. And as soon as they get to middle school, they get a 64 and they realize that that's an F. They all come running. The parents come running, the students come running, and they really are invested in what that number means based with the competency standard that we are teaching. It really is a very different perception for them. The parents understand those grades because that's traditionally what they were used to. I did a lot of research, also looking at grading systems just worldwide, not just in New Hampshire. And most schools in different countries look at a 0 to 100 scale. Not all of them, there are obviously some outliers, but a lot of them really do that. And it's more translatable. I mean, their A scale might be different, but for some it's a 97 to 100 is the A. For others, maybe it's 93 to 100. But those numbers are a lot more clear cut to kids and they understand. And when you go and you take a test and you get 100% on it, that is the maximum. I've had my kids come back and they're like, well, no, they told us that this assignment, the most you can get is a 3.5. So if you're never allowed to earn the maximum, that does impact your GPA. And you can work really hard every single year and your GPA is only incrementally going up. And when you start applying for those scholarships, it affects them. When you start applying to those colleges, it affects them because our GPAs look so much lower than other schools. Not that our learning is less, not that our kids aren't working as hard, but their GPAs look so much lower and it looks like they are struggling students. I have former students that, oh, I got all these scholarships, my GPA is a 4.4. Do we have any students in Belmont that can earn a 4.4? That's all.
Anyone else?
So when the competency-based,
Can you state
oh,
your-
sorry,
I
Sharon
know,
Champion Belmont, CIAMPI.
I'm just following you
Right,
for
no.
everybody.
And I know it too, I just skipped over that part. When I was introduced to the competency-based, Anthony was, I don't know, first or second grade. Yeah, you. And he's in 5th grade now. And they taught the elementary school and they tried to teach the children and us parents how the competency-based worked by using the example of creating a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. We spent all week teaching these children how to properly make their peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And then they sent you home a piece of paper that had 1 to 4, what they meant, and the 2.5 and the 3.5, and they picked a number by how well your child made this peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And this is the last time that I ever understood how this competency-based thing works. I don't even look at his progress report anymore. It comes in my email, I print it out, I put it in I don't even read it. It means nothing to me. It does not tell me how well my child can read, how well he can do math, what he's doing in science. There's no grade. It doesn't mean anything to me. It doesn't mean anything to him. He doesn't have anything to strive for. You don't have any way to push him. There's no incentive there. It is what it is. That's just, I rely on what the teachers tell me. Hey, he had a really bad day. Hey, he really needs to work on his reading. Then we work on his reading. We read a little bit more. But the grade system, even in middle school, it means nothing to us as a parent. So I heard a rumor that the reason we were still doing this was because everybody likes this. So I can tell you, I've become a little bit of a busybody in Belmont, and I talk to a lot of people and a lot of students. And I have yet to encounter one person who thinks that this is a good idea. So, yeah. That's that.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you so much. We very much appreciate all of your feedback. All right. Next up is school board reports, which is a communications update, as I look to Randy.
Yes. So I had brought this up to Michelle last week that I think we need to have a discussion. There is a lot of talk going around about competency-based grading. There's a lot of people coming to the meetings, which I love, but there's also bits and pieces of information getting shared around, and I think that we as a school district need to start communicating where we're at on this. So because of how we operate as a board and how we get updates, we've been having this conversation for almost a year. We originally, when the issues were brought up, we looked at categorizing what we had. There was things that weren't necessarily true. It was misunderstandings that we communicated out at this board meeting, but it didn't go anywhere. We talked about training, we talked about consistency with grading. We've been talking about the steps that we're taking to correct the issues that we have, but the one thing we're not doing is communicating it out to the community. And I think that we need to really take a look at that and start getting that information together. Starting with the history of how we got here, going into the issues we identified, review the categories that you came up with in the recommendations, the steps we're taking to fix it, where are we now? Where can people go for more information? And lastly, how do people provide input to us? Because as we go through things and we identify areas that we think we've addressed, either there's still an issue or people don't have what they need, but they're clearly looking for a way to provide input on this. So I am happy to help coordinate this. As I'm sure others would be too, but I think that we do need to put something out. Because there are bits and pieces that aren't telling the whole story of the work that we're doing.
I agree.
Are you proposing a subcommittee?
I'm proposing we just do it. But whether we draft it, pass it around the board, whatever, we have a lot of the information already, we just have to put it together. It's stacked through different meeting minutes. We can put something on the websites, but people are clearly looking for more information on this. And the work that we're doing to address it, it's not being communicated out properly.
I'd be happy to work with you on that, maybe.
I'd be happy to work with you too.
Let's do it.
All right, we're gonna talk. The other thing that I wanted to bring up is, I know we had talked at the last meeting about including communications to the community as part of the strategic direction. We have money. Why aren't we moving forward with our strategic direction now?
So for example, because there's no 5th grade in Canterbury next year, we know there's money there.
We also have unused funds from last year that we held, and we know that there will be funds from this year, but this is important. When we originally started talking about the competency-based grading, we were going to take two paths. We were going to look at what it was going to take to fix it, and then use the strategic direction to get community input on if we needed to revert back. And because of budgets, and it was a big year, we decided as a board to hold back on the strategic direction, and I think that we need to restart that.
I agree. You have the funds available, I want to move forward.
Yeah, I do too.
What do I?
Accept
So move forward with strategic.
Yes. And then Michael and I will still work on communications regarding the work that we've been doing, the issues we've identified, and where we're at.
So that this disseminating that, the right word is there, of that information, what does that look like?
We'll have to see, but it could be a series of communications. Obviously, I don't want to put too much in one because no one's going to read it. It could be putting information out on our website and then sending people out, directing them there, where all of the information is held. But we do have bits and pieces of it throughout our meeting minutes from the past year. So if we can just get it all together and put it out there and talk again about the issues that we identified, the work we're doing to fix it, I think that that would be helpful and allow people to provide their input in a formal way.
We should think about having someone from policy also work with you, because I don't know how much, I mean, I said it at the last school board meeting, but policy is looking at IKA, okay, the grading system, which you had brought up way back, like that we're not even consistent with IKA. So we had told Michael to go forward with that. He had presented the direction. So now it's with policy committee. If even like when it comes out of policy, or if or however that works, it would go to the board for additional. But we're not even communicating that, because I know was that 2 weeks ago? I don't even know. But whenever our last policy meeting was, I know members of the public had asked, like, we didn't know anything about this, we voted on this tonight. And so I want to make sure, like, we're communicating where we are at. So I'm just saying, or have someone from policy look at, I mean.
I would love anyone that wants to help, especially people. I'm not looking at you.
No, I just think.
Either of the three of you. Anyone that wants to help do this. Like I said, we don't respond. We're not being proactive. And it's time that we take some initiative.
Yeah, you can drag me in.
Thank you, Mark.
If you need additional help, I'm happy to as well.
Take all the help.
Just a fellow board member, I know the last policy meeting discussed IKA, but I don't even know the next policy meeting, which I assume is the second Thursday, or the fourth Thursday of the, fourth Tuesday of the month. Oh, we're not gonna have one?
So we're meeting.
Like, I don't know when you meet.
Correct. So, well, normally we'd meet the last board meeting of the month, but we're meeting April 15th. And we're asking Silas to speak for about 10, 15 minutes on like, what is our grading system? I don't mean 1 to 4.
That information needs.
Yeah, and then we've invited the building leadership team, teachers, and an open invite to teachers, because we want to know like their thoughts on IKA and how we got to IKA, how the decisions around IKA and what they're bringing forward, what's working, what's not, those types of things. And that's a public meeting. But you didn't know it was happening. Right, which speaks to.
When it is, what the agenda is.
And that'll
Policy IKA.
posted. It'll be posted. Yes. But then communicate it out. I hear what you're saying.
We posted that.
So I'm seeing that Randy and Michael are going to take the lead with Mark, providing the three of you working on making sure it gets communicated out and what those channels would be. And then we're gonna move forward with strategic direction. Do we need to tell Michael what we're asking him? I know you had gotten quotes of some sort, or initial discussion, so.
Can we restart the discussion, get an updated quote, and see when we could start doing it?
Does that work?
Because we can't take action on that tonight, right?
We don't know when we could start.
Right, and we don't know how much money, so so I guess we're asking Michael to go back
And then just for the audience's benefit, can we just describe a brief summary of how the strategic direction works? The gathering of different community members?
There's several different approaches that we could take as a board specifically. That's why we would want to have a facilitator that would help gather the information. I do feel that we take what we currently have and review that and potentially revise it. A lot of work went into that. However, it's a board process, so it's a good point to have a facilitator. And what information does the board need to know in order to establish a direction moving forward? That's the way it works.
But what you're saying is it would involve all of the community.
Yes.
Is that what you mean? Yeah, it would involve everyone from the community typically. And I would guess this board would want that. Community members, whether they have children in the district or not, teachers, administrators, everybody. Anything else on communication? Okay. Debbie, update.
So my first update is I am pleased to announce that I was able to use some Title IV and Title V grant monies in order to get the full $44,673 in the fitness equipment. And that has been ordered from Gronk, which is part of LifeFit. So all of that equipment is ordered. They'll be cleaning out the fitness room at the high school for the new equipment to be coming in.
Can you remind us what Title IV and Title V?
So Title IV and Title V are entitlements. They're entitlement grants. We get an allocation every year, and they pertain to safe and well schools, student wellness, and enhancing education.
Is that enough to cover the entire cost?
Yes. It was 2 years worth of grants, and I was able to get part of them out of 1 year and the other part out of the other. And the grants were not being, they had not been earmarked for anything else. So it's not like something else got waiting.
That was my question is.
Yeah, they weren't earmarked for anything else.
And they were, it's already been approved, which means it was ordered.
Yes, yeah, so I started working on these back beginning of March when I realized the error, and they got approved last Thursday during the snowstorm. So I placed the order Thursday. That's it for an update for me.
Any other questions for Debbie? Updates? Okay. How about general assurances?
So the general assurances are something that you have to review and sign, authorize the board chair and the superintendent to sign every year. I did provide information about the changes from the prior year's general assurances.
That was quite a bit of information.
Make a motion to authorize the board chair and the superintendent to sign and sign all the general assurances on behalf of the district.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion as presented, do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? abstention, motion carries. Debbie.
The next report is the Wellness Committee, and what we're presenting is the Triennial Assessment. So Wellness Committee, it's part of a policy, it's required under the Bureau of Nutrition, and every 3 years we have to go in and review what progress we've made towards the goals that were set. So the committee has been meeting this year to complete that assessment, and we're also now working on the goals going forward. So this is our report to the board, and our goals will be coming back to you probably in May.
And it was waived during COVID, which
It was-
is why we
yeah.
haven't
Yeah.
seen this.
And there's a vacant student and parent representation?
Yep, I sent out emails to the schools and the parents. I had some parents respond, but they were unclear what the Wellness Committee goal was. And when I overviewed that with them, they said, oh, okay, we're not interested, thank you.
You said it got sent out to the schools, like the...
I sent it out to the administrators to notify the students.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I would say that probably hasn't happened yet.
I will follow up on that.
Because that hasn't happened, to my knowledge.
Yeah, it would have been in September.
So it didn't
I
come
didn't
to,
know about
it
it
didn't come
until
to
I
board.
saw it in this report, and I said,
Okay.
oh, there's a student vacancy.
yeah.
That
I wondered
seems
if brass had been tapped or other
No,
students.
no one has mentioned it.
Thank you, Kate.
I did have another question. So it looks like when I looked through the chart that we're meeting pretty much all of the goals, which is great. But I was wondering are we looking at any steps beyond meeting? So like, for example, for the nutritional standards for this food being sold, it's great that it meets the requirements, but it could certainly be improved. Is that something that we'll be looking at, like, ways to introduce more fruits and vegetables, meat alternatives, that sort of thing? Is that something that this committee will be looking at?
So that is outlined by the Bureau of Nutrition, and then that is just, do we meet the requirements under the Bureau of Nutrition? And it doesn't say that we can't set higher goals, but there weren't higher goals than that set in the previous policy.
Okay.
So it's not that we haven't exceeded them, it's just, did we meet what was already in the goal?
Okay, and then like new goals are going to be set for...
They will apply new goals, we are working on new goals, but the committee is not charged with dictating what the food service program provides.
Right.
Because they have to meet enough of the USDA regulations as it is.
Okay.
So the committee sets goals related to the wellness piece within their parameters, but they can't dictate.
Yeah, okay. I guess my question would be like, who would do that then? Like, how, if someone wanted to do that, if someone wanted to improve the nutrition options at our school, would the wellness committee be something that they could use to sort of help achieve that, or would that be something else entirely?
No, you'd meet with the Director of Food Services about that.
Okay.
And the problem is food service is supposed to be a self-funded program. So bringing in all of those extra items, we would have to really raise the prices. And it's very difficult for people. I mean, we have to raise prices as it is just because of the federal requirements. But that's one of the tough things. But certainly we can, certainly talk to Mrs. Kate.
That's helpful, thank you.
And make a motion to accept the Wellness Committee Triennial Assessment Summary Report.
Second.
Any additional discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion as presented, do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries, and we'll look forward to seeing goals
Yes.
next month. And you're going to follow up on student participation?
Yes. Yeah.
Thanks, Debbie.
You're welcome. The last thing I have is we need to schedule a public hearing. There was a lot of projects that we had budgeted this year that a portion of what was approved in the budget was going to be supplemented by the Expendable Trust Fund. So it's getting to that time, we need to have a public hearing so we can get the money out of the Expendable Trust Fund. We typically have the hearing right before a board meeting. So that would be the May 9th, May 14th.
So at 6.
Yes.
Make a motion to schedule a public hearing for withdrawal from the Facilities Expendable Trust on May 14th, 2024 at 6.
Second.
Discussion?
Just a quick question, the information you provided in the report, was that expected amounts?
Yes.
Any other questions or discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion as presented, do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention. Public hearing is scheduled. Michael?
Thanks. So we're still on for June 18th as being the last day for students and for staff. Our last storm, we called a remote day. I know there was plenty of power outages, but we were able to count that as a day. So that's beneficial to us in June, to still get out on June 18th.
Are you going to send that out to?
I'm not 100% confident, because I'm thinking that we could still have some sort of weather event between now and then.
And now you've jinxed us.
I know.
Yeah, I wasn't going to say anything about it, but.
But I said it.
I would anticipate that I'd call a remote day if I had to at this point, if I had enough, if I could give the teachers enough lead time in preparing for that.
Okay.
But it's still early, it's only April 9th. So.
Okay.
We're still on, in my opinion, for the
Maybe we should
18th.
just wait till June 1st.
Yeah, that's.
You never know.
There's been some tough calls recently, as everyone's aware.
All right, go ahead, Michael.
And we are moving forward with exploring Alma, moving over to Alma for our grade book. We did have another meeting with Alma representatives, our district support team, and we have teachers and administrators exploring that option right now. It's looking promising. So at this point, we'll be discussing that with a final decision with our district support team in May and putting together some sort of transition plan from that point forward. But we are exploring it, and it's looking promising.
When would that transition happen? If
That's what we have to decide. Some are ready to go right now. Others feel that they're going to need a whole other year. So that's going to be part of the process, is determining what a transition plan would be, switching over to Alma for not only our SIS, but for our student information system, but also our grading and reporting.
And then just for those who are here that weren't here for the original conversation, we were pursuing Alma because of concerns that were reported around Empower when we discussed the competence grading.
Yes.
Thank you.
And then on a not so good note, I am definitely concerned about filling our vacancies, particularly we've been discussing this with the administrative team, not only for support staff, but for teacher vacancies. Right now, teacher prep programs, their enrollments are down 30 to 60%. So there's just not as many people that are going into the field of education, so filling those vacancies is going to become more and more difficult as the years progress, particularly in the state of New Hampshire. We actually have people that are leaving the state to teach in other states, as well as just those teacher prep programs are down, enrollment numbers. Support staff, the concern is around our number of one-on-one vacancies that we're unable to fill. And we also have a long-term sub-math position at the high school that we're having struggles filling. So that's a concern. It hasn't gotten better. It's not really a positive outlook on filling teacher vacancies, particularly within our state. So just raising that to the board's level, just so you understand the concern that we're having, not only in our district, but across districts throughout the entire state. So we're going to do our best to fill all those vacancies. So I know we like to talk about positive things usually, but that's definitely a concern on my end. and our administrative team in, and it's definitely putting pressure on our teachers and support staff for those vacancies that we're not able to fill. So it's concerning. Other than that, enjoyed the nice weather today. It's a nice change of pace. Hopefully it continues. We can stick to June 18th as our last day of school. That's all I have.
Questions for Michael? No questions. Okay, on the horizon, formatted with new items added.
It's my favorite part.
Are we gonna have transportation contract May 14th?
I'm hoping that we have one that can be signed by the chair at that point.
Okay, so leave it on the contract.
I've sent it back to first student with the numbers and the language, and they've sent it back with additional language that they would like to see in there, so I bounced that over to our attorney to take a look at.
Okay.
But there was no counter on the actual costs.
No, for the attorney. Any additions?
So we are expecting a YRES report. Is that?
I haven't gotten any indication that that's going to be ready at that point. Usually I hear from the state, but I'm not at this point.
Because this would be the year we would get it, right?
And SRO report?
That's not something we've done for several years, but we didn't have it.
We didn't have an SRO, so.
Right.
I'm just saying it's on May 14th, so I didn't know. If we're gonna move it, like what we're.
I could ask, see if Steve is interested in doing a report. I don't know if he knew that that was one of the requirements.
It would be
Sign
nice
on.
to get one.
Yeah. That's years ago now.
Things haven't happened, so it would be nice to go on.
But yeah, it was mostly just discipline referrals and so forth,
It was, yeah. But this would be,
home visits and so forth.
so, but it can be moved later too. I mean, since the year's not over May 14th, as
Touch base with Steve.
June 18th is the expected last day of school.
Yeah, that means there's not much happening on the 28th.
Or the 25th. June 8th. So some of that we need to look at. And then also take a look at like where we're at with some of our other end of year reports. 'Cause especially reports. And whether those would be on the 11th, Michael, or not.
Yeah. I'll have to go back and see where we actually did those
Yeah.
last year. I think we bumped them out a little further because it's
Yeah.
not the end of the year.
Yeah, just so we can start to plan out the end of this school year.
I'm afraid to ask, but I'm going to anyway. If the policy committee is meeting next week,
Monday, April 15th at 3:30.
when is the next time that topic's being discussed with the full board? I don't see anything.
Well, I think it's when you guys have something to present. So I know I attended that last meeting as an observer, and there was still work to be done on it, and then I just wasn't ready to present to the board yet.
Yeah, I mean, typically with policies, if you're just looking at policy IKA, that's all I'm talking about. Like that would need to come out of policy to the board
Let me rephrase my question.
For first reading.
How long?
for first reading.
How long are we anticipating it's going to be in policy? Okay.
Do we have an anticipated? We don't know.
I'm interested in the topic. I don't see it on the agenda anywhere in the near future, so. I mean, if it has to stay in policy for a while, I get it, but I just wasn't sure if there was any progress being made.
I think we might be able to have a better answer for you on that after the 15th, after we sort of have that discussion.
Because then it would come to us for a first, come to the full board for a first reading. And IKA is like the foundation, so even if the board moves forward with whatever, the reporting piece is above and beyond that too. So there's the system. So there's multiple levels. No, I don't disagree, but
Still pretty important.
But we want to bring you, whatever we bring you, I'm assuming you want us to do our due diligence.
We agree with you that it is a very, very important document, and that's why we're taking the time to make sure that we're doing it right.
Right.
If you make changes to the draft, I know we received the draft, if you make changes on the 15th, will you resend it to us just so we can see what we're at?
Yes. If we make changes on it, yes.
The earliest it would come to the full board would be May 14th.
And that
For first
would be a
reading.
first reading. Anything else on the horizon? Okay, volunteer list. There's a short volunteer list. It's up for action.
Make a motion to accept the volunteer list as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion as presented, do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention, motion carries. All right. Enrollment report. Michael?
Yeah, you can see our district total as of the first of the month is 1,098 students total across the district. We continue to trend downward, handful of students each month.
Okay. Anyone have questions? Okay, next up, these policies are for first reading. You'll see, so, do you have a question? Anyone have questions? Let's start there with any of them.
I don't know why I didn't catch this in policy, but I'm wondering whether or not it should, if it should be instead of no person shall use, or should we have possess?
Are you implying it should be like use and or be in possession?
Line 5.
Yeah.
So not have it on their person.
Yeah, I'm just thinking out loud. I don't know what others' thoughts are on that.
So can you say that again? What's
So,
proposed?
so line 5, I'm wondering if it should be possess instead of use, or as Randy said, no person shall use or, did you say or possess?
Or be in possession.
Or be in possession.
Go back into that.
Michael, can you, between now and then, look up the School Boards Association?
Sure.
Because I'm only thinking through, like, what would that mean for teachers in particular,
Parents.
parents?
Dropping off.
Right, like so I just want to make sure if we, I mean, I understand the intent, I just want to make sure,
Is it feasible?
is it feasible? and-
Right, yeah, or enforceable for that.
Or enforceable, and do we want to?
Yeah, so my apologies for not asking that question
Yeah,
in
that's fine.
policy.
So this one was originally brought to us because we had to add, on line 11, you'll see it in bold, public or federal funds. It was a requirement that we hadn't.
That's the only change, correct?
That's the only change.
I'm sure you guys discussed this, but is there talk about specifically citing vape pens?
So I think vape pens fall under the e-cigarette or
Correct.
smokeless cigarette category. Do you feel that we should call out vapes in particular?
Well, I'm looking under tobacco products, and it doesn't specifically say e-cigarettes, but I do know that, like, if this is for kids, adults, faculty, staff, everyone, like, some people like to say that vapes don't count.
It does say smokeless cigarettes though.
I agree, but that's a term I think that's not commonly associated with it. And it says smokeless tobacco twice.
It is actually something that I researched during the process of looking at this policy. But in my research, I did find that it does under, oh goodness, I forget which federal website it was on at this point, but it does fall under smokeless cigarettes, so
I'm cool with it, you guys.
pick your battles, but if other people are wanting to see that change, then I'm open to that.
You don't feel that it's encapsulated in line 9 and 10? It says in tobacco in any other form?
So when I look at it, like I had to look and I'm like, all right, like it's an e-cigarette count, and then I saw the smokeless tobacco, but I have to feel like if this is a policy that students are looking at, they're gonna call it vape pens or vapes. They're not, they might just gloss over the smokeless tobacco, even though it is referenced twice.
Well, smokeless tobacco is generally chewed.
Right.
So the vapes would fall under the smokeless cigarettes.
Oh, see?
Well, we could say smokeless cigarettes including vapes.
Although we probably could strike that second smokeless tobacco from the.
Right. We really emphasizing smokeless tobacco.
But Randy, to piggyback off of that, I wonder if we should add, because the smokeless cigarettes, the issue there isn't necessarily the tobacco, but the nicotine. So I don't know how deep in the minutia we want to get.
Well, is the overall term smokeless cigarettes?
Yes,
That includes,
any form of smokeless cigarette.
yeah, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah. So I mean, it's there. It's just how it's interpreted.
So, what would,
If you guys are fine with that, fine. Like, this is. I know it's very quiet here tonight.
I'm fine with it how it's written. I feel like something else could come along.
I think it's relatively easy to tell a student, no, it's a smokeless tobacco product. You cannot have that on school property, so I'm fine with it how it is.
do you want?
Doesn't matter to me either way.
Jack? Okay. And so the next one, we updated the superintendent evaluation and goal setting to be consistent with the new tool. That's the only change that was made here. And then first reading of collection of money for food services has to do with debt collection and utilizing the services of a debt collection agency. I don't have the quote, I have to pull it out, but you told us some staggering numbers.
Yeah, there's over $7,500 that is unpaid right now, and of that, it's 20 families that owe more than $5,000.
Is this over time, or is this for this year?
That's this year. That's current balance.
So you 20 payments collectively are over.
Yeah.
What happens to the old debt?
Eventually, I mean, we carry the debt. If somebody moves out of the district and hasn't paid the debt, it's the general fund's responsibility to pay off that debt. But we do try to send statements, we send calls, we send emails. But since COVID, yeah, the state recently sent out a survey as well, and they're trying to get a handle on this too. The food service directors did a survey, and the ones who responded statewide were over $600,000 in debt that parents owe on their meals, on their students' meals.
What's the process, like what happens? I know I get the annoying email or phone call if we drop below like $5, but when you hit like $100, or what are the steps they're taking to try to recoup?
We call the parents, the food service director calls the parents, we try to get them to, I mean, we do it before they reach $100, but short of doing the phone calls, it's gotten to the point where they just don't even answer the phone. The social worker will try to reach out and see, do they need help filling out the free and reduced lunch application. We send that out when we send the letters that they owe the money.
We offer payment plans.
Yeah, we try to work with them for payment plans. And we've had people just actually tell us to stop calling.
And so the discussion we had in policy was that we wanted to make sure that we don't just send people on to debt collection. So it was where parents do not cooperate in settling their debt, and if it's over, if we're getting up to $100 and they're refusing. So it's really about it certainly is about families not paying, but it's more the refusal to even engage in the discussion. So. Anyone have questions about that?
So, did you discuss a dollar amount for that collection? I guess I would just like this, if we did, the value of maybe having that in the policy. I'm just worried about consistency.
We did discuss that.
And I think the discussion kind of leaned itself towards that it's a case-by-case basis. So it's highly dependent on, how cooperative parents are being with the schools, whether or not they're, open to making the payment plans, things like that.
Because we didn't want to put in here and say, I'm making this up, but $100, but then a parent who's working with us, even if they're over $100.
I get that piece for sure. I guess I'm worried about the district saying they reached out 5 times, but the family honestly feeling that they only reached out once. I'm just worried about putting this to collection before somebody's really takes it seriously. I don't know how we do that.
Certified letters.
So, do you have a suggestion for like setting the dollar amount? Because then, I mean, the hard part is there's the setting of the dollar amount, and then the flip side is how are we ensuring?
Yeah.
There's two parts to that. And
I don't have wording. Part of it is just ignorance to the process that takes place. Like, I don't know. You know, are there monthly reports that's run? Who's calling? What happens if there's an answer machine versus there's no answer machine? I don't know.
So right now, the system is set up so when the debt gets to a certain amount, $10, a call goes out and says, you know, it's a robocall, it tells them, you
I
know.
got that.
Yeah, so we get a report back. And we can tell if it was answered, not answered. And so we get those reports and we look at that. If they continue to go up in debt, then Nancy, Kate, the Director of Food Service, will reach out to the parents. We send letters out as well. So, I mean, we're trying everything. We send emails, they can do it right from the point of sale system. So when it comes in and says, you know, Sean comes through for lunch and it says, he's at minus $25, the cashier can just hit a button and it will send an email. So emails go out, letters go out.
I mean, as long as there's multiple ways, I'm always worried about, like, even myself personally, my voicemail's probably full. So if you're calling it and trying to leave me a message, I'm not getting it.
No, we're also sending.
You're sending letters.
Yeah.
And do we do a certified letter too, to ensure?
We don't right now, but it would be one of the things that before we sent them to collections, we would send a final notice and say, you know, we are going to be turning this over to collections if you do not contact us. And that should go certified.
I think the magic number in discussion was it was $150 is, you know.
We talked about $100.
$100.
Yeah, but again, it depends. If you've got a family who's really
Yeah,
trying to work with us and
how
pay
cooperative
that,
they are.
you know, that's fine. It's not a guarantee, you know, oh, you hit $100, we're sending you to collections.
Right.
I definitely get the difference between having a big debt and cooperating versus not replying to all of these different methods that we're trying to use to get a hold of you.
And then we also talked about, like on line 26, like what goes in rules and procedures and what goes in policy. And you would have to update your rules and procedures related to like certified mail and stuff like that. That's what we, but yes, we did talk, so. Additional questions?
So we need to be in motion to move it to a second.
They are all listed as action on the agenda.
It should be information only. So let's move that all to information only. Because we won't take action until second reading. Okay, next up are nominations. There's 3 sets. Administrator nominee, yes, 3 sets. Administrator nominations specialist, and then the nomination for a BES associate principal. They're all up for action. We can do them in public if we don't have questions of a personnel nature. Any questions of a personnel nature need to be done in non-public.
I do actually have a question about the associate principal. It says the interview date and time is May 27th.
Yes, I noticed that as well.
Too.
I'm gonna guess it was March 27th, but
Okay. That was my assumption as well, just wanted to double check.
I know, I was like,
Interesting.
So
what would the board like to do? So the options are, if people have questions of a personnel nature, we can do it in non-public, or we can move forward in public.
Make a motion to accept the nominations as presented.
These are the administrator nominations.
Are you doing all of them at once?
You might want to do it separately.
Yeah, so yeah, I guess the first, where to go? First group.
Administrator
Yeah.
nominations?
Yeah, so I'll move forward with the administrative nomination list as presented. Or move to accept. There we go.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion as presented, do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? One abstention. Okay. Next up is specialist.
Motion to accept the specialist nominations for 24-25.
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion as presented, do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention?
Abstain.
And BES Associate Principal.
Motion to accept the nomination for BES Associate Principal.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? The motion as presented, do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? You all know what I'm gonna say, so you like are waiting. Okay. Next up, public communication and correspondence. Would anyone else like to speak? Lisa?
Yes. Lisa Ober, L-I-S-A-O-B-E-R, Belmont, I heard of that last time. I just have a question or comment, I know you can't answer, on what Mr. Tercey said about not having people fill positions, teachers aren't going into teaching anymore, yada, 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 about New Hampshire. Question is, has Shaker Regional reached out to colleges to get student teachers? The last time, when Emily Spear was here, was the last time I knew of any student teachers. And where I currently teach, we have 3 in our building. And they're from here, and they're going to hopefully get into our schools. So that's just a question putting out there, if you're looking at student teachers. That's all.
We have been doing like career fairs and stuff like that, right?
Yes, we do. We meet with Plymouth State University, UNH, Southern New Hampshire University, the community college systems, all of their, basically their directors. We also attend career fairs. We have one at Southern New Hampshire University on Wednesday, tomorrow, and one at Plymouth State University next week. So we just stick with affiliated groups to make sure that student teachers are coming into our buildings, which we do have, and hopefully we can retain them to fill our vacancies.
Because I know you're going to Plymouth State, because that's what my student teachers say. All your superintendents are going up there, or principals and things, but, and kudos, you just nominated a whole bunch of people, so clearly there's people out there. Just way to get them to Shaker. Thought student teaching, I haven't seen one, so haven't heard of one, so that's all. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Cheryl?
Yeah, Cheryl Durand from Canterbury. I just want to thank you very much for bringing up the communications piece with parents. I've heard at this meeting and the previous meeting that I was at that, and actually meetings that I've watched on with the recordings, thank you for recording, that the school board has been talking about the grading policy for a year, or at least it's been on the radar. And so more communication would be very much appreciated. And I would also like to advocate for just transparency as to, you know, what sort of evidence went into the policy as developed or any changes. And also advocate, and maybe this has already been done as part of your research to the changes in the policy, but I haven't personally received a survey regarding how my family feels about the grading system. And so I'm assuming that families haven't been surveyed and students, but maybe teachers have, and at least have gotten the opinions of the teachers as to how it's working, but I think that is a huge part of it, is just community feedback. And again, maybe you have some of that in an official sort of gathering capacity, but if not, I would certainly advocate for that to be part of the change process. And more communication.
Thank you. Yeah.
Sharon Champney, Belmont. Just on a changing topic, I am the director of the Got Lunch program. I wanted to give you guys an update of where we were at. The schools had ran our application, our flyers, which on the flyers talks about the program and what it is, and there's a link on it that you can click, and it takes people right to our application on our website. We opened that yesterday, and in 15 hours we have 15 children whose parents have signed them up for the program. And if you don't know what the program is we are going to provide lunches for children of the Shaker Regional School District whose parents apply we're going to start June 24th, and we're going to go to the Monday before Labor Day, and we'll be delivering bags of food to them. We have made contracts with stores. We actually made we had our first bulk purchase dropped off today, which was bags. That was fun doing that. It was actually a freight delivery. So we're learning a lot of new things. I have a really good group of volunteers that are working really hard. So it looks like we're going to be a success. But if anyone has any ideas for food drives, please reach out.
Thank you. Anything else? Yes. Okay. Next up is a motion to go into non-public for superintendent evaluation.